Hi, I'm Todd Klindt. I'm a SharePoint consultant, speaker, whatever. I work at Rackspace hosting here in the U.S. and I'm going to be speaking at your conference. I'm a SharePoint MVP. I've written a couple of books. I've spoken at a few conferences. I've got a blog. My mom tells me that it's great, and I do a weekly netcast on SharePoint. Coming up here on 5 years, I've been doing that. I would have thought I'd run out of things to talk about, but turns out that's not the case. So I'm just kind of an all-around SharePoint guy. I do the IT pro stuff, and so you can find my blog at www.toddklindt.com/blog. Hopefully they're putting that all right here. And then at the top of that, there's some incredibly handy links. One of them is to the netcast, or you can go to www.toddklindt.com/netcast. I record it live. 8:30 my time, which there's a lot of time zones down there in Australia, New Zealand. It's about noonish. For Eastern Australia. Got a few folks that sit in the chat room and do that. You can also download it. It's available on iTunes, it's available on Zune, and then I blog the things so you can get it from there too. So it's a lot of fun. I take questions from the audience, email, Twitter, that kind of stuff. So you should join in. I would say of those areas, my primary specialty is probably build, as I'm an IT pro. I think of the developers mostly as destroyers, so I'm kind of the builder. They come in and they do bad things to my farm. But so I build SharePoint farms. I feel like the SharePoint doctor, because I bring them into the world and I help them grow up and I fix them when they're broken, when they're sick, when they're sad. So that probably is my main specialty. Though working for a hosting company now, Rackspace, I've also been forced to embrace the cloud. I remember a few years ago when this whole cloud thing was starting, I was very anti-cloud. And then a cloud company bought my company, and now I'm very much a big fan of the cloud. I think everybody really should get into the cloud. But for us, the cloud is hosting, so it's kind of like a little chunk of on-premises there in the cloud. So it's still the same building thing. It's still us taking on-premises SharePoint 2013, building it up, tweaking it, getting it set correctly, but in our data centers, not yours. So cloud's a very nebulous term, pardon the pun. So for conferences, I kind of have my stable of IT pro talks that I talk about. This week at SPC here in the US, we did a day-long session on installation and configuration of SharePoint 2013. So we started with just basically a blank machine, had some OS patches and all that. By the end of the day, we had a SharePoint farm that had lots of service apps and users, no GUIDs and databases, none of that cruft. And so we spent 6 hours doing that. That was a good time. I've also, this week, I did a session yesterday on load testing SharePoint 2013 with Visual Studio. Now, I don't know about you, my fellow IT pros, Visual Studio feels sort of dirty to me, kind of scary, like I've stepped over to the wrong side of the tracks. But I was able to take this yucky tool and use its powers for good instead of evil. And I was able to take, we can take Visual Studio, we can point it at our SharePoint farms and kind of see where the weak spots are. And we can make sure that it's going to be able to handle our user load. And so it's not all bad. So that's one of the sessions that I did, went over pretty well. This afternoon, also doing sessions on PowerShell. Become a big fan of PowerShell. It's kind of the admin's best friend now. It's like a secret superpower that we have. We can do things in central admin, we can do things in the web interface, but then we can put our mask and cape on and dive into PowerShell and make all kinds of crazy things happen. So that's one of my favorite sessions, is showing IT pros more things that they can do with PowerShell. Also doing a session on upgrading, so taking your SharePoint 2010 farm that you've been lovingly nurturing for all these years, and you've got all this great content in it, and getting that moved up to the great functionality we've got now in SharePoint 2013. That's always a big one, lots of questions. Every time, much like snowflakes, which I don't know that you guys get a lot of down there, but trust me, living in northern United States, every snowflake is unique, and SharePoint 2010 farms are also the same way. So upgrade is less about being told how to do it, but being told how to understand how to do it, so that when your little snowflake comes in, you can get it upgraded and find all the crazy spots. So we talk about that also. That's a good session. Getting SharePoint working takes a big cast of characters. It takes a lot of people to make this ensemble of SharePoint work. You got Active Directory and IIS, and another one of the big players is SQL. And one of the sessions that I like to do a lot for conferences is just how to make SQL work for SharePoint. A lot of us SharePoint admins are reluctant DBAs. We want to do the SharePoint thing that we love, but we have to deal with this SQL thing. We don't always do it very well. And so I take this one session and I kind of break down some of the common SQL issues that we face and hopefully let you head some problems off at the pass. Things like keeping those LDF files from filling up your hard drives, making things go better, because I think for most of your farms, the bottleneck is SQL. Unless you've got some bad developers, then it's probably their code. But, I mean, it could go either way. But knowing more about SQL will only make your SharePoint better, will only make you a better SharePoint administrator. So that's another one of the fun sessions that I like to do. But really anything admin or IT pro based, I'm passionate about it, it's fun. You guys are passionate about it. I really kind of feed off of you guys. And so it's great hearing the questions and seeing what you guys want to hear about. That's kind of how I determine what I talk about. So it'll be great to talk to you guys and see what you want to talk about. My earliest SharePoint memory. So I've been doing SharePoint since the very first version, and like most of my IT pro brethren, I was just an IT pro guy. I did Windows, I did Exchange, I did SQL, and I was on a team, and we had offices all over the world. And my boss, and this was 2001, and my boss said, we've got servers all over the world. Todd, you need to put up a web page with all of our servers and all of their warranty dates and all of their serial numbers and everything, so that everybody in our team across the country can get in there and see when things are going to expire, what kind of servers we have, stuff like that. So anybody that's seen me speak or talk to me in person knows I'm not very smart. And two specific problems that I have is that I can't write web pages and I can't design anything. And if you remember back to the dark ages of 2001, everything was hard-coded HTML and all that kind of stuff. And I was sunk. I was wondering where I was going to work next, how I was going to feed my cats, that kind of stuff, because I didn't know how to do this. And as I picked up my coffee, it was sitting on an Office XP CD, and it said, with SharePoint Team Services. And I'm like, well, I got nothing to lose. So I dropped it in the CD-ROM, those are those little round things, ask your grandparents. And I installed SharePoint Team Services 2001 to meet this one task of getting this web page put up. And it sounds kind of, anybody who dealt with it might disagree, but it was easy comparatively. I mean, I was able to get the data in there. SharePoint took care of all the web stuff, all the design stuff. SharePoint took care of all the fonts and the colors and making everything. I just put the data in, that's all I did. And it was a huge success. I was loved by all my coworkers and carried around on their shoulders. SharePoint administrators, you know how that goes. It's like Tuesday. And then later, a couple of years later, the company that I worked for was a software company, and they decided to make a product that sat on top of SharePoint. And at that point, it was SharePoint 2003, WSS. And their development team said, hey, Microsoft's got this thing where they eat their own dog food, and they're pretty cool. We should eat our own dog food, too. We need a big SharePoint implementation. My boss said, I've got a SharePoint expert on my team. And that's how I got to be where I'm sitting today. So I've been lucky enough, I've fooled enough people that I got to come down to Sydney last year for the Australian SharePoint conference. I've been threatening Debbie and Mark for years that I was going to come down. I finally followed through on that. Had a blast last year. You guys talk a little different. I don't think y'all understood. I apparently have an accent. I've never heard of such a thing before. But I had a great time. The Australian crowds were really great. I had a very friendly, which I guess was not a surprise. I didn't expect anything else, but I felt very appreciated. Great crowds and all that, and the teams down there did a great job of taking me around Sydney, showing me around. I had so many great things, so many opportunities I had to turn people down. But I got to speak at a user group and all kinds of great things. One of my big regrets, though, was because of scheduling and all that, I wasn't able to get to the New Zealand conference last year. And I've regretted it ever since. I cried myself to sleep for weeks about it. And so this time when it came around and the opportunity came up, for whatever reason, I was asked to come back again. I can only imagine all the good speakers were already busy or working, all that stuff. So I get to come back again, but this year not only do I get to come to Sydney, I also get to come to New Zealand. So all you Kiwis have been warned. I'll be coming over there to Auckland as well. And it's been one of the things, I've been friends with Mark Rhodes and Debbie for a long time, and they always have to come all the way up here to see me. So I'm really glad I can return the favor and go down there to see them. It's been great. So I can't wait to go. It's going to be a great time. So I can't wait. I'll see you all at the SharePoint conferences in Sydney and Auckland. See you there.